Hi, listeners. Welcome to another episode of StarCast Podcast. Thank you for joining us. As you know, we are always diving into issues that are specific to wellness professionals around the world. And we are often talking about the services and the fluff around them and the enjoyment and the pampering and the marketing and the new angles. But we so rarely talk about one of the standards of spa treatments, which is the table you have your treatment on. So today we're being joined by two executives from one of the two companies that make tables in the United States, Living Earth Craft and Earthlite. We're joined by Jim Chenevey and Rod Derifield. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
It's good to be here. Good to be here, Lisa. Thanks for having us.
We're all happy to have you, and we're going to talk about the story of the company because I think it's much more than you may realize. As a spa professional, chances are excellent that you have had a treatment on the Living Earth Crafts or Earthlite table. Since they have shipped over 1 million tables in the 23 years that Jim has been involved with the company, and the company has a longer history than that. So we're going to talk today about what does it take to make a successful equipment company, the challenges of dealing with U.S. and global expansion, and the bright future for wellness. So thanks again for joining us. I'm going to come back to Jim. Jim, you and I have known each other many years, and I want to ask you your backstory about how you joined the industry because you came from outside, but I want to take you further back because, you know, as many of you listeners may know, I'm a big sports fan, and Jim was on track to be a baseball player. Let's start there.
All right. Well, I was a sore-armed left-handed pitcher for the Oakland A's. I was pitching in their minor leagues and had a couple of good years, but, it's a very difficult place to make it to the big leagues. And
even for a left-handed pitcher, I mean, that's amazing.
I don't know. Anybody who knows me would say, oh, you're definitely left-handed.
Uh-huh. So, Jim, when did you realize that wasn't going to be your path forward in life?
Honestly, I was quite a good pitcher in high school, and in college, was doing quite well. But I hurt myself, and I had, rotator cuff surgery back in the days when they didn't really know how to do it very well. And, the doctor at the end of the surgery said, well, how much pain can you endure? And I said, I don't know, some. And he said, well, I've done what I can for your shoulder, but this is going to be about pain management. So that was in college. I did okay in college, and I played in the minor leagues. The Oakland A's drafted me surprisingly at a pretty high round because I was a left-handed pitcher, threw kind of hard. And they said, we think we can fix your arm through exercise and training. And, so I did it a few years, and, my arm definitely got better. But the pain didn't completely go away. So I kind of knew that I wasn't going to have a Hall of Fame baseball career. So
too bad.
3 years in, I decided to call it quits, and ultimately ended up in the golf industry after business school, working for the founder there, Ely Callaway.
At Callaway Golf.
Yeah, and he was based down in San Diego. That was a really great ride. And at the end of it, I was looking for a small business, something where I could really drive the direction and be the majority owner versus being a publicly traded company. And I found this little business called Earthlite and Living Earth Crafts about 15 minutes from my house. And I came in and met the founder, Tomas Nani, who is a massage therapist. And what I saw here was a lot of really great, dedicated employees and a company whose culture really closely aligned with my own personal values. And that was the start of it. I think I was hooked on day one.
Were you nervous about, I mean, you had been in charge of international sales for Callaway, traveling all the time. This is a completely different industry. You put your money into it. Were you ever nervous about that decision?
You know what? I wasn't. I probably maybe should have been a little bit nervous, but I wasn't. And it was probably youthful arrogance of, having worked in management consulting for a few years in manufacturing in a few different industries. When I came in and looked at the issues at Earthlite, and there were definitely some, Costco was selling their tables and there were Chinese imports coming in. It wasn't a great time for US based manufacturing. But I felt like I knew some of the answers and that I would be able to get this company turned around, which we were able to do. What I didn't know is that I would be here for the next 25 years.
What did you think? Like when you bought in, what were you planning?
I honestly, I didn't want to relocate from San Diego, and a lot of the opportunities I had in business were outside of the area. So I thought I was going to turn the business around, run it for 3 years, and then bring in another investor and I would move on. It didn't happen quite that way.
23 years later, here you are. Because you loved it, right?
Well, I tell you, I did. I love the people here, and many of them are the same employees that I met on my very first day interviewing or talking to Tomas. The people in our industry, the spa industry and massage and wellness, there aren't any better people in the world, honestly. And they're the best business partners. They lead with their heart. They're purpose driven. It really is a very special space. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it because I used to be in sports. This is incredible people in our industry.
It's funny about that. So many people come into wellness from other sectors, finance, human resources, marketing, whatever. They come in and find themselves in the wellness industry and they never leave. They always say, oh, everyone is nice. We're people who do what we say. We're honest and upfront, and we all want to do nice things for other people. So it is a wonderful industry. And well, we were lucky to have you because the company certainly has flourished. Let's talk about how it's different, right? When you came on and Tomas was still there, you were making LEC and Earthlite tables, but that was it, correct?
That was it. And, there were a few things that needed to happen. On the LEC, we were making electric hydraulic tables. We really had, probably 2 or 3 models. It was very basic. There wasn't any, there was maybe 1 or 2 sets of patents that we had in the company. So there really wasn't a lot of patent protection in the business or IP. And so that was one of my first tasks, was to build a moat around our US manufacturing organization, protect it from people knocking off the designs. So that was one of the first things that I started to focus on.
How long does it take to do something like that?
Honestly, it's a multi-year process.
Right.
It really is, because you have to do all the engineering and design work. You have to have unique designs. And then you got to go through the patent process, which is often 2 or 3 years. But, it's an intention that you put out there of saying, look, we want to make something that's better and different than anything that's been in the industry so far. And then going through and following through and actually getting that protection.
So how many patents do you have now?
It's a lot. Active patents, there's probably more than 30.
Yeah.
And I think we've never been more active in our IP than we are right now. We're filing some very important patents in some of our new designs as we speak.
That's exciting. So after you finished that first goal, right, building the moat, protecting the IP that you had, what was next on your list for how to grow the company?
Well, we started, what's funny is because when I first came in, while I was part of a publicly traded company that was always about quarterly profit and how you're going to grow. And it was about growing earnings 20% every quarter. And at Callaway, at one point, we had a 60% market share in golf equipment. And it was a really, really big question of how we were going to keep growing.
Not at that rate.
It's a challenge. And so when I came over to Earthlite and LEC, I said, here's this great company. And do we really care if we grow profits by 10 or 20% every year? So part of my mindset initially was I want to protect what we have, but I wasn't necessarily fully focused just on growth.
Mhm.
But during the great financial crisis in 2008, 2009, a lot of people probably remember that time when the hotels all retrenched and our
Mhm.
economy retrenched. And in the middle of that, I realized how much a growth mindset meant to a company,
Mm.
that aspiring to grow, to create more opportunities for your best people, to generate additional income so that you can take care of your employees and provide for them. To me, it was a metamorphosis mentally. And as we went into the financial crisis, we got big time into medical. We made our first pedicure chairs. We started getting into hot towel cabinets and linens and just really starting to expand our offerings because we wanted to grow.
And so this was the late aughts at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
That-
2009 and 10 is when we really started to look hard about how we were going to grow, even sometimes outside of our traditional categories.
Well, how do you grow a business like that, Jim, when people knew you for one thing? Like, how did you put the word out that you offered more things? What was successful for you in that realm?
Well, a lot of times it's the blurring of the lines between the wellness categories, between massage and chiro and PT and medical wellness and medi spas. When you're dealing with consultants and they're asking you for products that don't necessarily exist, that's when you get your opportunity to be creative and entrepreneurial. I know in 2010, we had a very big hospital chain come to us and they said, we hate all of our exam tables. They're not ADA compliant. They're uncomfortable. We can only do certain kind of procedures in them. And they asked us what we could do. They were like, we want a more spa-like environment. And from the ground up with a bunch of doctors, we built a medical examination line.
That must have been a wonderful experience.
It was, I don't know that we ever made a whole lot of money on those designs, but I thought that just the fact of how we were expanding inside of our company was so dynamic and transformative for us.
Well, that was probably an opportunity for you to learn a lot too, and then the workers on what was needed in the medical silo. So when did you start making acquisitions of other companies?
Well, honestly, Living Earth Crafts was an acquisition or a merger. They were having some financial difficulties in the early 2000s, and they merged with Earthlite.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of really our first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Stronglight owner, when he was getting ready to retire, he had some really good designs on some portable chairs and stuff. And he approached us, and it was a very small acquisition, but we did that. But then, Continuum and Tara, more recently, like in the last 10 years, we've done two of those kind of acquisitions and integration.
And Continuum makes pedicure equipment primarily, yes?
Very high-end pedicure equipment, very similar to our type of positioning in our company. Yeah.
And Tara Spa Therapy, consumables. I mean, what was your thought in that acquisition?
Tara and I have served on the board together at the Green Spa Network. So we were both, sponsors of the Green Spa Network. And she was one of the co-founders, which is our only sustainability nonprofit in our industry. And I was on the board of it, and so was Tara. And, her products are beautifully clean, you know, uh, tremendous focus on organic and fit very well with Earthlite's own sustainability positioning. So it was natural for us. We had an oil and cream and lotion line under Earthlite, but without the guidance of really somebody like Tara, who I have a variety of names for Tara, but almost like an alchemist. She's incredible with essential oils and aromatherapy ingredients, and she helped really clean up the Earthlite line to the kind of standards that we should have as a company.
Well, that's a great point. You sell top tier tables and you want to be known for top tier equipment across the board. So let's flash forward to 2025 and Rod Derifield shows up. And he's not just a pretty face on our video. He gets to speak too. Rod, let's go a little bit into your background and how your path converged with LEC.
Well, thanks, Lisa. It really was similar to Jim's story. It was a happenstance of meeting Jim and going actually through. There was a recruiter that was aware of me through the business I was at the time, which was called Nexus Brands, who thought that there would be could possibly be a good fit from an ethics and a vision standpoint. Introduced Jim and myself, and I think really from the moment we met, we both kind of knew this was a match that was going to take ourselves as well as the business into a whole new area and truly continue on with what Jim, has brought along, kind of a torchbearer, bringing us to the next stage of the business.
Your business history, Rod, is in growing businesses, right? It's like finding out what makes them tick and making it better. Tell us a little bit about what you did at Nexus.
Yeah, well, I guess even starting before, I started my own business after starting my career in the Silicon Valley. Then I started my own business, which was in the pharmaceutical supply industry and space. That business grew to be a global business, which I ended up selling to a private equity company and ran it for them for a number of years before exiting through some ownership changes. I decided I needed some more challenges, and to be perfectly honest, to get into a space that was more about happiness and helping people live better lives, as opposed to the pharmaceutical industry is a very focused industry on a lot of kind of the after part of sickness and helping people recover, but it was a different kind of industry. So from that, I actually got into motorsports and worked with a group that was the largest at the time manufacturer of parts and accessories for motorcycles and all the fun dirt toys that people have out there, which was we grew into be $1 billion business.
Wow.
I did that for around 5 years. Grew it, was in charge of one whole group of that, all of the off-road businesses, as well as our strategy for the corporation. Then I exited that and got into a group that was called Nexus Brands, and really started from scratch a professional pet supply group that over a 5-year period grew that business to be the number one in the industry for them globally.
Good for you. Well, welcome to wellness. We hope you'll do the same thing here, obviously. I have to go back and ask you, when it comes to the motorsports company, were you a motorcycle rider?
To begin with, the answer would be no, although I had. But as I was there, I was able and exposed to go to different areas of the country that you couldn't help but wanting to ride a motorcycle and be out in the middle of nature and beauty. And it's just a different experience being on a motorcycle as opposed to being in a car. So I became one, and still would be recreational but not in the traffic of Southern California. That's
No.
Spa's a lot safer, Lisa.
Yeah.
A lot safer, even if you can get your parts at wholesale. And then the pet industry.
And on and off a treatment table.
Yeah, that's right. A little easier. The pet industry you didn't fill your house with pets when you were in that industry, I hope.
I have to be honest, I'm a pet lover. I've always just loved dogs. So I've had a number of dogs. So yes, I had dogs, but we really specialized in the high end and very premium products and supply for those of you out there who are into really show dogs, the Westminster show, or if you're in Europe, Crufts. Our products were the number one products in the very, very high end market, and it was just so much fun. And I have to be honest that the people in that industry are very similar to what I see here in wellness. They really are about they're loving people. They really want what's best in the world. So it was I love the industry. It was a fantastic industry.
Well, we were lucky to get you to come on over to wellness because we need some business skill. We all love wellness, all of us that work in it, but it's become, as Jim referenced earlier, the blurry lines. It's not real definitive anymore that it looks like X. It takes on so many shapes now and has potential that I think as an industry we really need to explore. I mean, we all get the global wellness numbers. We see the growth. It's been, fantastic, especially the last 10 years. And COVID only spiked it more. But now what? Right now we have to make sure that we continue to grow and we do that in a profitable way. So Rod, you've been with the company a year now. What's your take on how you see the wellness industry operating? Does it differ at all from the other silos that you've been in?
It does differ. It really, to kind of your earlier point, one of the key things that I believe strongly in is the balance of what I like to call art and science. So there's the art in wellness. There's the connection, the love. All of that part is what is the heartbeat of the industry. It's why people stick in the industry. It's really, why the industry exists. And then there's the science of the business side, and having the balance of those two, of making sure you never lose sight as to, why we're here, why there's this industry, but knowing that you have to have solid profitability and make good decisions in the long run so you can be a business that's been here, which, by the way, Jim didn't mention, for 52 years is how long this business has been in. So that, in today's day and age, that is a long time for a business to exist here. So it's hats off to Jim and Tomas that they were able to keep this business and grow it to be a leader for over 50 years.
No, that's tremendous. I'm glad you brought up that point. I didn't know that either. And, you have to be pretty old, I guess, to sell 1 million tables, but that's only been the last 20 years. So, there is tremendous growth for us if we keep doing things the right way, as you say. Rod, you came over as president, and now I think you're stepping into a bigger role. Tell us a little bit about how this transition will work.
Well, it's really exciting here. My transition, I'm transitioning into the CEO role. So I am now the CEO and president, which really is around freeing Jim up to do what he loves to do. And his new role, besides being a chairman of our board, but he is also now our chief innovation officer. And part of our business strategy, and it aligns to where we think the industry as a whole is going, is to really invest more and to have more focus on innovation. And that's innovative products. That's innovative methodologies as to how and where do we get those products to people. And Jim is going to head that up. So we laugh internally that I get all the headaches, but he gets to have all the fun stuff.
I'm sure he engineered that, Rod. Don't be kidding yourself. Now, this role of Chief Innovation Officer is a new one for the company, is it not?
It is. It's new. Again, it's an investment that when we sat down really from day one, it was believing of what was needed to take this business for the next 50 years. How do we do that? And it truly was about innovation and being connected with the market. And as the market changes, and as we redefine what we really consider to be our market, we really needed to have a person of Jim's experience, expertise, and truly his thoughtfulness to help guide us in the right areas. So yeah, we've now invested in this role. Jim's building out kind of the team and organization to support him. And we've got some exciting things that we'll be sharing here over the next months to come. We already starting to see some fruit from this.
That's exciting. Well, I know Jim is interested in innovation, and I've always enjoyed the summits that we've had where you invite all the consultants in and let us get on the equipment and critique it. And you really listen, you really pay attention. And I always thought that was a really smart approach. Rather than going to market with something that you are crossing your fingers you hope will work, you've done some of your research ahead of time.
Well, yeah, it only makes sense. You try to dry run these things. But the world, just to add on to Rod's point, the world is changing quite rapidly as you see much more of this sort of technology that's coming into our space, and trying to make sense of it and figuring out how it can incorporate and be incorporated into our products it's a full-time job, and it's difficult. And I think that, what Rod and I are hoping to do is to open our gates even wider and collaborate more with other leading providers of technologies that are emerging in our sort of wellness, longevity, recovery, sort of treatment space.
I think that's a great point that you bring up, Jim, because there is so much technology now and it changes so quickly. And you're not always sure how to incorporate it into what you're already doing, but you have successfully done that already. Maybe you could tell us more about your MindStream hookup and how that has worked.
Well, I'll be careful. So we do have a relationship with MindStream, and we make a lounger for them that incorporates their music and playlists, etc. But I think what you're really referencing is MindSync, which is a partnership that we have with Sonos, which is the brain entrainment software that uses vibroacoustic resonance. And this is a classic example of how things, when they work well, how they should go. So it started with this guy comes to our factory 20 years ago, and he wants us to make a lounger for him for this. He was at the time doing like smoking cessation and some addiction recovery work. So he comes and we're like, yes, we can make this lounger. And he had this really expensive, like $25,000 computer system that drove this vibroacoustic resonance and guided meditations, etc. And they were doing it in clinics and testing it. So I got to meet Rod and Jill Slane from Sonos. And, as I discovered that their first iteration was, and it was on one of our loungers, was to treat combat veterans coming back from PTSD. So they clinically studied this technology, this thing that they developed, and it works incredibly well. And they've been around in the medical world for probably almost 15 years, just doing hospitals, et cetera. And you know how that goes. And so a few years ago, we got with them and said, hey, our spas can use this emotional and mental reset technology that you have. Let's develop a product for the market. And that was the MindSync. And there is an incredible amount of potential in this product. And our sales right now are going through the roof of our MindSync loungers and our reset therapy loungers. And it's been wonderful. And there's a lot more avenues that we're just starting to tap into with that product.
That's really exciting. I'm glad to hear it. And yes, my bad, I'm getting confused with MindSync and MindStream, but you're with both of them.
Reddy is a great person, and it's a great company, and we love them.
Well, I remember being on that MindSync lounger, and there's a visual component as well, right? So you watch and you relax, and it seems like, yeah, that's a great thing. So how many years did that take to come to market from when you first had the discussions?
We won an iSpa Innovate Award for that product. And I believe it was probably either 2017, 18, or 19. So how old it is, it depends on whether you count COVID years in it.
Yeah.
We don't count COVID years.
5 years. But it's iterated. We now have, more versions of it. There's programming in there for mental focus as well. That we've developed for country club people, if they're before their golf match or their tennis match, to help them get in the right mindset. It's really an interesting technology, and it's only one. There's so many. We've recently done a partnership with Saluma that has FDA cleared pulse light therapy. Like we know it as red light therapy, but there's actually multiple different colors and spectrum. And they're a great partner. And we are looking at ways to incorporate red light therapy directly into our products in a very systematic way that our spas could take advantage of. So lots of things going on here in terms on that front.
Well, that's all good, and it really meets a need that we're seeing in the industry for things that can be offered to clients that don't have a labor component. We're seeing globally such a crunch on having enough therapists to meet the demands, which have never been higher since COVID, and yet it's never been more difficult to get staff, qualified therapy staff. So equipment that can offer some relief for wellness or relaxation or recovery to people without a therapist's hands-on is really a booming part of the industry.
Yes.
Give us a hint of what may be coming down the road, if you can.
We have an announcement, I believe, that we'll be making in the next couple of weeks that I can't really tell you about it because it could go sideways. But we have a very exciting announcement regarding touchless therapy that could be coming in the next few weeks. And it'll open up an avenue of innovation and development opportunity for our company that we are really excited about. So,
well, we'll wait to hear about that announcement.
Yeah, I wish I could blurt it out. I'm very bad at keeping secrets. So.
Well, I won't ask you then. I don't want to get in trouble with Rod. So 2026 horizon, the company's well positioned, great leadership, great vision. What's next? Where are you going?
Well, a couple of things there. One is we're coming off our best ever, our record quarter at the end of 25. So we've set records there. We're poised right now to continue to ride that wave. A lot of strength right now in the business. From a truly more of a visionary standpoint, we really see that over the next coming years, we're seeing everything like you talked about, like touchless products, more technology, not only making its way into the products that are in like a professional setting, but we're also seeing like a trickle down. We're seeing it in communities, Jim mentioned it earlier, into golf clubs, into, stretching companies, all the way into people's homes, to be perfectly honest, where we see that the like the what they call the TAM, the total available market, is actually expanding because there's all of these segments that previously weren't actual, viable customers and segments. They're all now very much following the lead of the high-end spa world. And those technologies and products that do well, we're seeing that trickle down into the rest of the market. So I think you'll see expansion of new technologies from us, but you'll also see adaptations of those technologies to really fit into the places that all of us want to experience those products, and well as to increase our overall wellness by having it available in the places that we're most often at, which isn't always the spa.
No, it's not, unfortunately, always the spa. But you're right. It grows the TAM for you as a company, and consumers certainly want that. I mean, I can say that I have a PEMF mat that I lay on almost every night, and it helps me sleep better. And, it was an expensive thing, but if I look at the payoff of that is that I sleep well and it feels nice, why would I not do that? And I spoke to someone this morning that is thinking about opening a spa and wellness center. And he said, oh yeah, we have an infrared sauna in our house and we use it all the time, so it's just becoming more common. And I do think this was accelerated by COVID. I don't know, Jim, you have a better perspective on that, but I feel like people are more willing to invest or do things than maybe they were 5 years ago.
Well, I think, you and I, Lisa, and Rod, we were all at that conference in Dubai for global wellness. And what was pretty clear is with some investment on our parts, the opportunity or the potential to live a lot longer than previously thought is a real possibility. And so it's kind of like, I need to get another 50,000 miles on that car. So what can I do to, maybe I should, repair the tires, and rotate them and do some things to, so I believe there's a lot of that coming on too. And I think a lot of the younger people are driving this attention to taking care of themselves for the long haul. And it's exciting, and it's creating real opportunities for us. But I know I don't want to digress too much because I want you to talk about, Rod, maybe about geographic expansion and maybe, acquisitions or anything like that as part of our strategy.
Yeah, well,
To hear it.
That's right. Good intro. So part of our strategy and part of truly being the size business we are, with just the most incredible financial partners that I've ever experienced, and I've dealt with a lot of private equity firms and investors, is that we're really poised to make very thoughtful and strategic acquisitions. Again, we are looking for leaders in different segments and different product categories. We're looking for leading companies that could become part of our group. So we're actively looking and speaking with folks right now. So we definitely have the backing to do that. But in the meantime, organically, we're making geographic investments that are in process. We've opened up our Dubai offices, what we've deemed EMEA, which Torsten, who we all know and love, has agreed and heads up and is our managing director for the EMEA. And our presence that we've had for a very long time in China, we've expanded our Asia Pacific region as well. And we are making investments there to be able to serve all of the different geographic markets locally, yet have a true global view as to how we do that, the products we offer, the foundations of those, but then we can customize it for the different geographies, as each geography has their own personality.
Yeah, and I would add we're expanding what we're doing in Rotterdam. So we've begun doing assembly in Europe. So we're moving forward with a focus for us in the next 5 years. We intend to do a lot more in Europe and the Middle East, and that involves manufacturing. So that might be through a combination of, expanding the facility that we have now in Rotterdam, as well as through, one or more potential acquisitions.
What are you seeing as the growth patterns globally when you look through that lens? Are you seeing more growth coming out of EMEA or out of Asia Pac or North America? What's your sense?
Well, I think it's always company specific, right? So it depends on where you're starting. We're lucky that we sit in the largest spa market in the world in the United States, and the greater, sort of call it North America, US, Mexico, Caribbean. But there's a lot of growth going on right now in Southeast Asia. There's still very robust development in China, surprisingly. But Europe is a very big market where, we have some established competitors, but it's a big market and they're at the higher end. But the one thing that's very important to note is it's a global market. Like, it's not regional like it was 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So, technology and innovations and techniques that might come out of Europe and head to Asia and head to North America. And the same thing, innovations in the United States evolve over in Europe. So if you're investing in technology and development, you need to amortize that over the entire market that you can, which is worldwide. And that's what we plan on doing. That's a big part of our strategy.
Yeah, we're a global partner, but we have regional touch. And that's really our approach. And to Jim's point, technology moves fast and the investments are large. So you really do have to be able to leverage that over the entire world, which is our strategy.
Well, it's true that this is a great time for that. And, with technology and talking about internet and connectivity like we've never seen, it does sort of flatten the market, if you will. They're not so segregated. But it's still a challenge for you, Rod, to grow a global organization this way. I mean, how will you approach that, having these different centers, but wanting to have a unified focus and yet be regional and local? How do you balance that as a CEO?
The balance truly comes back to people. And we're very particular about the people that we add to our team, as well as the companies that we talk to about potentially acquiring and joining our broader group. So it really does come back to people, and it comes back to having a very understood and common vision of what our goal is. And our goal truly is wellness, but as we've talked about, longevity and health span, and really being a good global partner that people can rely on, whether it's regional or not. So it's truly it's a people approach, but backed by having good, solid business acumen and good, solid financial partners that we can weather the ups and downs that, a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, when everything's going well, their heart's in the right place, but headwinds do happen. And we've got the wherewithal to not only survive those, but to truly thrive through those.
So let me ask you, in terms of acquisition, for anyone listening, is there a certain size, scale of business you're looking for, a certain silo, something that's tech, that's wood, that's equipment, that bolts onto a table, that's something new? What if I'm listening and I have, what kind of company should I approach you?
I'm going to let Jim answer that first, and then I'm going to follow up because our answers are going to be very similar, but with a slightly different twist.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that we're looking to expand our manufacturing presence in Europe. So I'm not going to lie, we like manufacturers. But we, Tara Spa Therapy is a classic example of a smaller company that fits very well with our strategic plan. So, what I would say is, yeah, we like bigger companies as opposed to smaller because it's a lot of headache to acquire a business that maybe only has $1 million in revenue or something. But I would say that, we look for leaders in their space that make a high quality product and that have a future where we see, opportunities to innovate and to become an additive part of I think the term we've been using is sort of the constellation of companies that are part of Earthlite.
Okay. Rod, let's hear your answer.
Yeah. What's your answer?
Very similar. We're looking for leaders in their categories or in their geographies. And as Jim said, yes, we do like bigger as opposed to smaller. And that's just good old fashioned math. But we prefer that. But really, from my perspective, is we're looking for those businesses that culturally fit well with our business. And that's it's a view, it's a vision, it's an ethos. Changing or trying to get a business's culture to change to fit into our culture is really a lift that doesn't really work for us. We really need to have businesses that are in their space, they're leaders, but truly they have the same heart that we do. And that's just something Jim and I feel very strongly about, that we're looking for those that want to add and become part of our tribe for lack of a better term, not looking at trying to have fix-it situations. That's not really what we look for.
No, that makes perfect sense. And what you say is so true, Rod, about the culture. I mean, it is what it is. And we see that from hiring on up. I mean, people need to fit in with your vision and your culture, or they don't. It's very rare that they can adapt. I'd like to address the size in case we have a more specific question. When you say bigger, I mean, do you mean you're looking for revenues of 5 to 10 million, more than that? What's your ideal target?
So from a top line perspective, I would say, if, as Jim said, if it's less than a $3 to $5 million top line business, it'd be very, very difficult. Not that we couldn't do it for the right business, but it's difficult. From a top side standpoint, we really don't have a top side. Our financial partners are very solid. We wouldn't want to go out and try to acquire a public business. That's not kind of our model. But beyond that, we really don't have a top gauge.
And I would add one thing to that, Lisa. I think that the technology component adds a wrinkle to it. So, we are very actively evaluating, different technologies in the wellness space, how they might apply, looking at who are the best providers of those technologies. And, there is a possibility that we might do one or more, I'd call them technology acquisitions with the express purpose of integrating those into equipment and products that we have.
And our technology partnerships and ventures. I mean, a lot of times for a myriad of reasons, truly like an acquisition or a sale or a purchase isn't the right structure at the time. We're very open to partnering with the right people and the right technologies.
Super. It looks like the sky's the limit, really. I love the vision. Let's close with a little future casting from both of your perspectives. It's 2026 now. Let's talk about the company in its 2030. What has changed?
You first again.
We've more than doubled in size. No, no, we are committed to growth. So I expect us to be a lot bigger. I think our motto right now is healing humanity through touch. And it's been I don't want to call a rally cry, but it's been something that has created a lot of engagement of our employees here. I believe that's going to evolve a little bit because of what you're talking about. There's technologies, and I don't think human touch is going away by any way, shape, or form. But I think you're going to see more products, services, and opportunities from our company that are lower touch or even non-touch.
And to be clear, these are meant to augment human touch, not to replace. And we're all saying that. Nothing will replace the touch of a trained therapist, but there aren't enough of them. And people want much more personal service than they ever did. And so these options seem to really bridge that gap in between when you can see your regular therapist.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. That's
so on a practical basis, I would say in 2030, we have a significant manufacturing operation in Europe. We have a sizable footprint there and a sizable share of that market. And our investments in the Asia Pacific market would be very similar to that, where we already have a sizable manufacturing group there, but we have a larger sales and service presence for Asia Pacific. So, round figures, Jim mentioned it, we're probably twice the size we are today, but those key things to help support the markets that we serve are investments that we are looking at right now. We're actively working on.
Well, it's exciting times. I'm so glad that we were able to share this news. Before we sign off for this episode, I'd like to ask you each if you would share what your personal wellness practices are.
Okay. My own. It's evolved a little bit since I've had to hang up my basketball sneakers a couple of years ago. But one of my main ones is yoga. So my wife and I have been 25-year Bikram yoga practitioners. So we do hot yoga.
Bikram is killer. I'm impressed you can do that.
So, a couple of days a week doing that. I like to walk the golf course. I am playing some golf, mostly for fun. So I do walk, and my wife and I do hiking. And I am trying to become more grateful, be more in the moment, and focus on being present in everything I do.
Well, that's a lifelong pursuit, but good for you for trying that. How about you, Rod? What do you like to do for wellness?
I love all outdoor activities. I actually just kicked back up surfing, which went back on a hiatus for me for a number of years. But having born and raised near the beach here in Southern California, so I've kicked that back up. I love to scuba dive. From a truly kind of more practical wellness standpoint, I'm the guy that everybody gets to laugh at in the back for yoga. Not the most flexible guy in the world, but I love hot yoga. I just find it cleansing mentally, physically. And I still like to go to the gym. I enjoy, resistance, weight training. So those are kind of my key things. And I do walk and hike and all that, but I do like to go out onto the sand, take my either shoes or flip flops off and ground myself out there. If not daily, virtually daily. It's one of those things that I love to do. And if I have a glass of wine, it's the sunset. That's just, that's
Isn't that
extra.
Hey, Lisa, what's yours? You run up the stairs of the Philadelphia.
Look at you turning the tables. I do a lot of things. I am a regular yoga practitioner and have been, and I do hot yoga. I don't do Bikram, but I do a hot flow yoga at least twice a week. And there's nothing more cleansing to me than that. I love that. I do weightlifting at least twice a week. I jog. I wouldn't say run, but I get out, and when it's not too cold, and I run. I do long bike rides in the summer or walks in the winter, and really watch what I eat. I'm really paying a lot more attention to my diet. I mean, we're all getting older, and yet we've learned so much about how to care for the equipment that we have. that there's no reason to think we can't keep on ticking for another 30 years. So that's my goal.
For sure.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, again for joining us. These are exciting times for Living Earth Crafts, Earthlite, Jim Chenevey and Ron Derifield. Great to have you with us, and we can't wait to hear about the growth potential and what will happen in the near future. Thanks again.
All right, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.